Hey guys, today we're going to learn how to solve one-step inequalities. This is going to be very similar to solving equations with one little difference. So you'll notice when we're solving inequalities, the variable must be alone or isolated just like an equation. You need to isolate the variable using inverse or opposite operations just like an equation. And then we want to make sure to keep it balanced. Whatever you do to one side, you're going to do to the other, just like an equation. The only thing that's different, and this is going to confuse a lot of people, so we're going to practice, is when you multiply or divide by a negative number, the inequality sign has to be flipped. So that's the big change here. That's the thing that's going to give you a little bit of a fit. So we're going to practice. Let's see how we do. All right, so solving each inequality, make sure to check your answers, and then we're going to graph it too, since that's a big important part of inequalities. So on this one, we have n plus 5 is less than or equal to 16. So the first thing I want to do is get rid of that 5. So since we're adding, I'm going to subtract the 5 from both sides. That is the worst 5 ever. So that's going to leave n on this side because these two cancel out. And then we're going to do 16 minus 5. That equals 11. And our sign stays the same. We didn't multiply or divide by a negative, so it's just going to come straight down. So then we would say n, remember we read kind of from the variable, so we're saying n is less than or equal to 11. So then if we're going to graph that, what I would do is just put 11 here in the middle, 12, 10. Since there's an equal to sign, highlight that. Since we have this guy, we know that we need to color in that circle. So on the 11, we're going to do a solid dot. And then it said it is less than or equal to. So our arrow needs to go to the left. Less than or equal to. All right, let's try another one. C minus 9 is greater than 14. So I want to get C by itself. So I'm going to use inverse operations. So I'm going to add 9 on this side, but I have to add 9 on the other side. I'm keeping it balanced. So that would leave C by itself. I didn't multiply or divide by a negative, so my sign is going to stay the same. And then 14 plus 9 would be 23. So we're going to say C is greater than 23, so that means it cannot be 23. So if I was labeling it, I would put 23 in the middle, then 24, 22 over here. And so it cannot be 23, so I'm going to put an open circle. And then it's going to be C is greater than 23. So I'm going to go this way. I forgot to check on the last one. So on this one, we can't just take our 23 and plug it back in. Because remember, C has to be greater than 23. So the first one I would put in maybe is 24. So if we do 24 minus 9, is that going to give us something greater than 14? So if we do 24 minus 9, here we'll just do it the slow way. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Is 16 greater than 14? Yes, it is. Check. Now you'll notice if we put 23 in there, we would get exactly 14, which would be incorrect, but that's why we have an open circle, because it can't be 23. All right, let's try this one. We have 12g is less than negative 48. So right now we're doing 12 times g, so in order to get rid of it, I want to divide by 12. I'm going to do that on both sides. 12 over 12 is 1, so that leaves g. And then negative 48 divided by 12 equals negative 4. Now the question is, did I divide or multiply by a negative? So when you're trying to determine that, we are just going to look at what we did. We divided by 12 just because this top number is a negative number. doesn't mean we divided by a negative divided by a negative number. So since we divided by a positive 12, our sign is going to stay exactly the same. So it would be g is less than negative 4. So if I was going to graph that, negative 4, negative 3, negative 5. Notice this is backwards because we're in the negative. So remember 0 would be somewhere over here. So we're going away from 0. And then I'm going to graph. Notice my graph cannot be negative 4 because it's not equal. So I'm going to have an open circle. And it has to be less than negative 4. So I'm going to go to the left. Okay, graphing is going to be a real important part of learning inequalities. So make sure you're understanding that well too. All right. So this one, you notice I have a note at the bottom. When you multiply or divide by a negative number, the inequality sign is flipped. So let's see what that looks like. So we have 49 is greater than or equal to negative 7g, or negative 7 times g. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide by negative 7 on both sides, keeping it balanced. So negative 7 divided by negative 7 on the right-hand side over here is going to cancel each other out. So we get g left over. And 49 divided by negative 7 gives us a negative 7. So we want to look at what we did. Notice we divided by a negative 7. So since we divided by a negative, we need to flip our sign. So our sign is going to go the opposite direction. Oops, did it with a highlighter. So if we were reading this from the variable, we would say g is greater than or equal to negative 7. So I'm going to graph that. Let's put negative 7 in the middle, negative 6, negative 8. Notice it kind of goes backwards because, again, 0's over here. We're counting this way. So I'm going to say g is greater than or equal to negative 7. So since it's equal to, my dot's going to be colored in. And it's going to be greater than or equal to, so I'm going to go to the right. And for us to check, we can put any number that's greater than that. So if we wanted to put negative 5, for instance, because negative 5 would be right here, we could do negative 7 times negative 5, and that would equal 35. And so then we would say, well, is that true? Is 49 greater than or equal to 35? We would say, yep, sure is. All right. Couple more. So we have p divided by 3. So let's write this a little different. I would prefer to do it like this. P divided by 3 is greater than 9. So we're dividing by 3, so I'm going to multiply by 3 here. Over here, I'm just going to write it normal. So this would end up being 3p over 3, which cancels out. And then 9 times 3 is 27. I did not multiply or divide by a negative, so my sign stays the same. And it is greater than 27. So that means it has to be an open circle and off to the right. All right, so we have x plus 19 is less than or equal to 33, or 33 is greater than or equal to x plus 19. So since we're adding 19, I'm going to subtract 19 on both, keeping it balanced. That leaves x by itself over here because these cancel out. And then 33 minus 19, here we'll do this over here. We get 14. I did subtract by 19, but I did not multiply or divide by a negative, so our sign stays the same. And then if we're going to graph that, I would put 14 in the middle, 15 and 13. And it says x is less than or equal to 14. So equal to means close dot. Less than or equal to goes this way. Notice when I read that, I started with the variable x and then moved to here, less than or equal to 14. All right, so based on my little note here, we're going to have to divide or multiply by a negative. So we have negative 7x is greater than or equal to 35. So I'm going to divide by negative 7 on both sides. These cancel out or become 1. And then 35 divided by negative 7 is going to give us negative 5. Now we're going to look at what we did again. So notice we did this. So we divided by a negative. So we know that our sign needs to go the other direction. So we are going to flip it to go the other way. So we're going to read that x is less than or equal to negative 5. So I'm going to put negative 5 over here, negative 4, negative 6. And then it's going to be less than or equal to. So that means since it's equal to, we're going to have a colored in dot. And it's going to be less than, so we're going to go to the left. And again, to check this, we could put anything that's less than or equal to negative 5. And it should give us the correct answer. All right. All right, this one does not have any negatives or positives, or we're not going to multiply or divide by negatives. So let's get rid of that 14 on this side. And we're going to get rid of that 14 on this side, keeping it balanced. The sign stays the same. 16 minus 14 is 2, so x is less than or equal to 2. Since it's equal to, we're going to color in that dot. Less than or equal to, so we're going to go to the left. All right, one more. Okay, last one. Remember, when you multiply or divide by a negative, you got to flip it. So I would rewrite this one. X divided by negative 8. I want to multiply by negative 8, so I would write it like this. But over here, if you want the parentheses to make it look a little prettier, you could do that. So this is going to be negative 8x over negative 8. Those would cancel out, so that leaves x. 3 times negative 8 is going to give you negative 24. And then since we multiplied or divided, notice we multiplied by negative 8. We multiplied by negative 8. So that means our sign is going to flip. So it's going to go the other way. So we have x is less than negative 24. So negative 24, negative 23. So I'm going to have an open circle since it's less than, not less than or equal to. And since it's less than, I'm going to go to the left. All right. So this is probably the trickiest day as far as one-step equations or one-step inequalities. Make sure you understand this rule at the bottom. And then practice, practice, practice on graphing. A lot of people mess up on the graphing part. All right. Good luck.